If you think all of these protests, burning, and looting are new, think again. I'm about to give you a history lesson that is reliving itself in 2020, but was full chaos in 1970. You know, right when Joe Biden was getting ready to enter the political realm and be a leader or something. I'm Katie Petrick, and this is Healthy Republic. Ecclesiastes 1:9 tells us there is nothing new under the sun. King Solomon may not have precisely meant the chaos of riots and burning of buildings, but then again, maybe he did. Here's the part where I tell you the craziness of 2020 is nothing new. I'm about to give you a little history lesson. Take you back 50 years, almost to the day when a bomb went off on the UW-Madison campus, a little over 100 miles from Kenosha, one of the many cities in 2020 that has been firebombed and where riots have exploded.
The night after Jacob Blake was shot, Kenosha was on high alert. All exits to Kenosha blocked off, trying to prevent crowds from coming in. Every storefront is boarded up. All throughout the day, people were thinking about what may come later on at night. In the daylight, you could see charred remains of a used car lot.
On Wisconsin. In the 1960s, the rioters were called the New Left and were members of the Yippies and the Students for a Democratic Society, which is still going strong with idols of AOC and Bernie. The Weather Underground was a faction of the SDS. Now these radicals are the far left and are made up of the Black Lives Matter organization and Antifa. But the messages remain the same. Destroy America by ushering in communistic regimes that will not provide a utopian life of equality, but will be a dog-eat-dog fight for power in a land of anarchy. Now let's bridge the two time frames because these people all should remember this time period. Bernie Sanders will remember it. Nancy Pelosi will remember it. And Joe Biden will remember it. Well, probably not, let's be honest. And Donald Trump will remember it too. But the difference is the first three refuse to acknowledge the chaos happening now, as it did back then, but will not allow police officers to do their jobs to stop it. And the other huge difference is in the 1970s is when Bernie, Nancy, and Joe began their political careers. They have been in politics most of their adult lives. And what has changed? Answer: nothing. So let's get to the history lesson I keep promising. In 1992, Tom Bates, a journalist and a former UW-Madison student in the late 1960s, wrote the book Rads, telling the story of the awful day in August 1970 and the events that led up to the explosion and ensuing tragedy. I honestly cannot recommend this book enough. Read it now. The 1960s were a time of unrest. Protests about Vietnam, protests about civil rights, protest to protest. By the end of the decade, the country seemed like it would burst. Then, on August 24th, 1970, it literally exploded. And remember, just a few months prior, the Kent State shootings had happened, and 4 students were killed. Now, in the wee hours of that August morning, vigilante students from UW-Madison thought they would be the heroes and solve all of the problems because all of the problems were caused by the police and the federal government in the first place. Does that sound anything like today? The New Year's Gang, as they called themselves, was comprised of UW-Madison students Carl Armstrong, his younger brother Dwight, a student journalist named David Fine, and Leo Burt, who was on the student newspaper and a member of the crew team at one point. To this day, Leo Burt is actually on the FBI's most wanted list for his part. These 4 men decided to target the Army Mathematics Research Center located in Sterling Hall. They wanted to blow it up and show the federal government just who's the boss. So they stole a van, filled it with explosives, and left it by the building to explode just before 4 a.m. And even though that they saw lights on, meaning there was probably someone in that building, they proceeded anyway. Carl explained it to CBS back in 2011.
Well, I turned to my confederate and I said, he asked me, he says, do we go ahead? Are we going to do this? I think I made a comment to him about something like, now I think I know what war is about.
They killed 33-year-old Dr. Robert Fosnacht, a postdoctoral physics researcher who had nothing to do with Army math and who was close to a breakthrough on superconductivity in metals. But he never got to show it to his wife and his 3 young children. Carl showed some remorse for ending an innocent man's life, but he's sure proud of doing the bombing.
All of us were saying, oh no. And then I told everybody in the car, I said, maybe with time, we'll feel better about this.
Has that time come?
I don't think you can ever feel good about it. I felt good about doing the bombing.
After all of his attempts, I guess he should. Carl built his way up to the big bombing. He and his fellow dissidents had practice. First, Carl tossed a firebomb into an ROTC classroom in 1969, and the next day, he dropped explosives on the Badger Army ammunition plant in Baraboo Hills, but thankfully, they failed to detonate. Then he went on to toss a firebomb into the Red Gym, which is a campus building that houses a lot of student services, including the ROTC, on the Madison campus. But Carl isn't the smartest, and he hit the wrong thing. Whoops. But Sterling Hall was a success in their minds so far as the bomb did detonate and caused a massive amount of damage. But of all the departments housed there, the main target of Army math was the least damaged. The bomb's explosion was so massive that some say they could actually hear it from 30 miles away. Prior to the Oklahoma City bombing, the Sterling Hall bombing actually was considered the largest and most destructive terrorist attack on U.S. soil. The Armstrongs and Fine were finally found after a massive manhunt, and they served some prison time, though not all of their sentences. Again, Leo Burt remains on the run 50 years later. But there's another character found in the book who is still lurking in Madison, and it's quite telling of the politicians from the era. Paul Soglin went from being a Madison student activist to Madison mayor activist. Soglin served 22 years as mayor over several times, and then attempted to become governor of the state in 2018. This same Paul Soglin actually gave Fidel Castro, the Cuban dictator, a key to the city of Madison back in 1975. Now, to put life into perspective, it was just a few months after the Sterling Hall bombing when Joseph Robinette Biden began his political career as a member of the Newcastle County Council in Delaware. He was on his path to accomplishing not much of anything, a path he solidly remains on today. But if you ask him,
COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, has taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives, when you think about it, more lives this year than any other year for the past 100 years.
Yes, that's right. He has no idea what is happening. But even if he provides no substance, at least Joe will be there to bring the sustenance.
Protest. Hey, Joe! Hey. You finally got out of the basement! Hey, Joe, who paid for those pizzas? Thank you very much for bringing us. Hey, Joe, who paid for somebody gave us steak? That's right, Joe! Don't jump! Don't jump! Don't jump!
The heckler in the back is everything. But Joe saying, don't jump, really does make me wonder if he thinks that people who want to jump off buildings are the same people who actually are showing up to see him. I mean, honestly, why would he ever even say that out loud to a crowd of people? But the focus is on the fact that Biden brought pizzas, so we should totally elect him president. And if not for that reason, then certainly because he's such an eloquent orator, as demonstrated forever and for always.
The incumbent president is incapable of telling us the truth, incapable of facing the facts, and incapable of healing. He doesn't want to shed light. He wants to generate heat, and he's stoking violence in our cities.
Stroking. There are too many jokes to be had on that one, so you go ahead, put your joke in the comments below, because unlike Joe, I won't touch that one. Now, go defend yourself, Joe.
Do I look like a radical socialist with a soft spot for rioters? Really?
No, Joe. That's why you have Kamalama Ding Dong to stroke the fire about the violence you claim to condemn. But not really, since you and your VP pick are pandering to an alleged rapist and his family.
Wonderful. I mean, they're an incredible family, and what they've endured, and they just do it with such dignity and grace, and they're carrying the weight of a lot of voices on their shoulders.
Disgusting. Unlike Harris, at least one woman didn't stick to the script and said it like it is because, after all, Joe Biden says he wants to hear the truth.
I'm just going to be honest, Mr. Biden. I was told to go off this paper, but I can't. You need the truth. And I'm part of the truth. I was born here, raised here, first 8th grade class of the school that was named after his mother. So I have to give you the truth of the people. And the truth of the matter is, we are heavily angry. Not angry as to where people say, oh, they're protesting. There's a difference between a protester and a rioter. A very big difference.
She's right, there is a difference. But that doesn't matter to our college students who've been indoctrinated to think that looting and rioting is justifiable in terms of protest.
I don't want to say, actually, yeah, I'm in support of the riots personally. Whatever you need to do to be heard is the cost of it.
I feel like it's inevitable that if change is going to come, there will be some violence that comes with that.
Anything that any of them loot will never match up to how much has been stolen from them. For meaningful progress to happen, unfortunate things happen.
And that comes full circle to the rads of the 1960s. It may be a different decade, but it's the same old story. Much like those in the late 1960s, today's radicals may come to view what they are doing now in a new light years from now. Then again, these are the people from the 1960s who are still doing this insanity and are the ones who indoctrinate these new radicals into how to hate the world. Where we go from here, well, your guess is as good as mine. Until next time, stay healthy, America. Hey team, you all know it takes a lot of work to get all of this together, and we continue to be demonetized by Facebook and YouTube. If you like hearing truth and common sense with a love for freedom, please join the Patriot Club with a $99 tax-deductible donation. And you'll get this sweet vessel of joy as part of a thank you for joining the Patriot Club. All you have to do is visit patriotclub.us and become a Patriot member today. That's patriotclub.us. You'll be helping us so we can keep helping you.